Hey there all you cool cats and lazy dogs. Today's video will cover my thoughts on the Canon C200 after the past 3 years of use. Keep it locked. Back in 2020, I was still using my C300 Mark I as my daily workhorse, but a couple of things were starting to show their age. Specifically, the height of the camera, placement of the XLR ports on the LCD clamshell, and the fixed autofocus point, and the fine but could be better auto white balance and low light performance. I eventually settled on switching to the Canon C200, and for the most part, it has settled into its role without complaint. The biggest advantage of the C200 over the original C300 is the adjustable autofocus point, and the addition of Face Detect AF and tracking. These alone have made the platform much more usable and worth the switch. Now, I'm still not a fan of leaving Face Detect on during interviews because of my past experience with jumpy autofocus platforms, but I can't think of many times when it's lost the autofocus after locking on point. And in fact, this entire narration has been done with the Canon C200 with face-only AF. The tracking feature is great when trying to follow a subject that is changing perspective without shifting the composition. Now, changing the subject while tracking does require a couple of extra button commands, and it's not as intuitive as the 1DX line, but it's not as cumbersome as the XF705. The focus assist is nice for manual focus pulling, but is a feature I don't often use unless I am doing macro work or shots that require very slow and steady pulls. In general, focus pulling on these small LCD screens is very difficult for my eyes, so I consider any AF function to be a great asset. The touchscreen AF is very responsive and easy to operate. I set a button on the side of the LCD for AF lock, just as I do for the button on the grip, so that I can control the AF from both sides of the camera, which comes in handy when shoulder mounted, as the button on the 18-80 lens grip cannot be set to AF lock. The camera can shake when using the touchscreen, so the operator will have to be conscious so as to not apply too much pressure to the screen. Also, when in the shoulder-mounted position, the exhaust fan blows directly into the user's ear. Not critical, but definitely annoying. The battery does extend farther out from the back of the camera than it did on the C300, which looks and feels a bit awkward, but actually makes it easier to shoulder mount. The LCD is a bit close to the user in the shoulder mode with the stock handle, especially with glasses on, but it's still usable, but a bit farther away would have been nice. The overall design of the C200 is much nicer than the C300. The movement of the XLRs to the body, the redesign of the screen and shorter height, means that it can fit more easily into camera bags, is less top-heavy, and can retain sound capture when not using the LCD. The EVF is actually pretty good, and I find that I use it regularly. In fact, due to the reflective nature of the LCD in direct sunlight, making it borderline unusable, I wouldn't consider a C200 without an EVF for outdoor use. A sunshade can be used with the LCD to make it more visible in sunlight, but it will encumber the use of the touchscreen. The extended neutral density range up to 10 stops is amazing and has been real helpful to keep a lens wide open in bright sunlight. The camera can get hot when recording in 4K, but I've never had it overheat, even on those intense summer days. The 4K and 1080 420 8-bit do a fine job for image capture. I do miss the 422 image of the C300, but I wonder how much of that is just nostalgia kicking in. I'd probably say the C200 8-bit is more like an upgraded C100 image, rather than an upgraded C300 image. Nothing extraordinary, but it looks fine and gets the job done. But if this was the only codec available, I think I would have definitely moved on from this camera by now. The Canon RAW has indeed lengthened the usable life of the C200. It is more difficult to color correct in post, but it produces a wonderful image. And with the new Apple Silicon Macs, it is easier than ever to edit on a timeline. The file sizes are massive and reminiscent of recording video on the 1DX Mark II, but thankfully, CFast cards and HDDs have come down substantially in cost. But this still doesn't change the fact that you can easily shoot a terabyte of footage in one session. Because of this, I generally choose the 8-bit for live events, interviews, long documentaries, and anything requiring a lot of image capture without the hassle of large file sizes. I then use the RAW when I'm capturing B-roll product shots for clients or for shorter documentaries. A middle codec would have been nice, but unfortunately, it's not there. SD cards are a mixed bag for me. They're cheap and easy to get, but I've never been fond of the small, fragile format and have always preferred larger cards such as Compact Flash, CFast, and CF Express. Playing back recorded clips is a bit cumbersome due to the lack of dedicated buttons, and having some lit buttons like the C300 Mark II would have been nice for night work. The placement, recessed nature, and lack of feedback from the jog wheel on the side of the camera make it difficult to operate, and I find that I have to take my eyes away from what I'm shooting to accurately use the wheel. I have it set to change the sensitivity, but in reality I use the jog wheel and the grip more often for that purpose because the body jog wheel is poorly designed. The wheel on the C300 was a much better design, and I wish they incorporated it here. In general, I haven't had too much to think about this camera because it just works, and that's to its testament. It's never shut down, it's never let me down or otherwise left me stranded in the middle of a job. Does it have its negatives and could be better? Yes, but it does its job without complaint and doesn't get in the way. And I suppose that's all I can ask from a camera. That being said, the C300 Mark III would be an amazing upgrade as the price starts coming down, and I'm excited to see what the next iteration of the C200 lineup will look like. Hopefully, it'll include a middle codec. But until then, the C200 will continue to do its job, and at the current price of these on the used market, which at the time of recording this video seemed to be averaging about $1,500 to $2,000 US, I have a hard time not recommending this camera. So these have been my thoughts on the Canon C200, originally released back in 2017, which does not feel like it should be 6 years old by now. I hope this has helped anyone looking into the C200. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out in the comments section, and feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Alexander Calder Spinelli of Longbow Media, signing off. Catch you later, cool cats.